I'd like to welcome you to the October 15th meeting of the Land Use Working Group, the Municipal Office Consolidation Subcommittee. I'm Paul Bohm. I'll be chairing today. For business is the roll call. Although I think I see our two members, Tracy Morano and Paul Bohm here, so I'll short circuit that. So we have a quorum because there are only three of us on this subcommittee. So welcome everybody else. First thing on the agenda is any public comment. I'm sure we'll be inviting other comments as we go along today, but any public comment on anything that's not on the agenda today? Great, seeing none. First order of business is approval of the meeting minutes, and I do apologize, Tracy, for getting those out late. I think Shannon sent those out within the last couple of hours. Mary is not here, so I'm wondering, it's up to you whether we want to go through those or should we defer to the next meeting and do that as a group. I mean, there is a version that we could go over. Perhaps you have comments, but I don't know if you've had time to look at it.
I was at the chair's breakfast, so I actually did not have time to look at them. So maybe we just wait, we approve them at the next meeting.
Okay, let's do that. So we'll table the review of the October 1st minutes till the next meeting. And in the interim, Tracy, if you have any comments, get those to Shannon so we can have a revised version for
Sure. Yep.
discussion on our next meeting. Okay. Next order of business is the discussing the draft contribution to the quarterly report to the select board. So Tracy, I had prepared a sort of a group input to Judith, and recently Judith kind of compiled that into a report. So I'm wondering, I'd like to put up the report that Judith has as
Yeah,
opposed
that'd
to
be great.
the inputs.
Yep.
Let me share that if I can here. Okay, are you seeing this?
Yes, now I
Yeah,
am.
okay. Okay, so this is Judith's compilation of the all of the inputs. So this is the draft that she sent out for review, but I thought it'd be appropriate for us to talk about the and this is arranged by subgroups. So this is the condensed version of what I had sent to Judith. So if you want to just have you seen this?
Yes. Yep. So if you could just zoom in a little bit, just so everyone can read it, because I don't think
Okay.
it's really legible to read.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Just
I'll
there you
zoom
go.
in.
And a little bit more, maybe. Tiny bit more.
Really?
Just so
Wow.
people can read it. Okay.
Okay. Can we read it?
Yep, I can. And I'm a little bit challenged visually, so.
Okay, I'm gonna get it super big. It's actually super big on my screen. But anyway, um, it's short. So let me just read through this just so okay, this is a municipal consolidation subgroup report, the input to the select board report. So the municipal consolidation subgroup is evaluating Concord's town administrative offices with a focus on operational efficiency, building condition, and adaptability. Currently, more than 15 buildings house municipal staff and services, the result of years of incremental growth as the town outgrew older facilities. This dispersal has created departmental silos, made collaboration more difficult, and often forced, as my residents, to visit multiple locations to access services such as permits or bill payment. Moving forward, consolidation, in other words, co-locating select town functions in shared modern spaces, offers benefits for staff efficiency and public access, while also reducing the long-term costs of maintaining and renovating aging buildings. This first paragraph comes from our needs assessment, I think,
Yep.
which we had put together and discussed previously. Site visits to current locations, including Townhouse, Assessor's Office, Harvey Wheeler, Community Center, 55 Church Street, Hunt Gym, Kais Road Public Works Campus, and both fire and police stations revealed generally positive staff morale, but also a lack of awareness about challenges faced in other departments. Many buildings had substantial paper storage, paper document storage, pointing to inefficiencies and space constraints. When assessing potential consolidation sites such as MCI Concord, the Warden's headquarters, Peabody School, Ripley, and 2229 Main Street, the subgroup noted that all would require major renovation, with new construction costs estimated to be similar to renovation. Of these, the Peabody building appears physically most viable, though a full analysis is needed and is underway to determine feasibility and economic justifications. The subgroup has established a list of facilities for consolidation or as possible receiving sites, supported by an evolving evaluation matrix weighing productivity, customer service, operational savings, revenue, capital costs, and suitability. This matrix draws on staffing figures, currently about 100 to 135 employees, and observations of program needs and facility usage. Leasing private space is also under consideration. Next steps will focus on refining the matrix and developing an economic assessment of consolidation scenarios to guide recommendations that emphasize operational improvement, fiscal prudence, and long-term adaptability. So this is Judith's consolidation wording. Just for Tracy for the moment, and then I know others on this call might have some input on this. Anything that grabs you as needing
Nothing really grabs me as needing any changes, except for the site visits to current locations. We don't include, Peabody and Ripley, which I think are huge in that list of
Yes.
things. Obviously, we don't want to, we're not going to include all 15 sites, but those are kind of key to some of this. And I just don't know if we need to call it out there. It's definitely called out below, but
Yeah, let me just note that here. Okay, let me. Okay. Anything else?
Paul, may I ask a question or would you?
But just a second. I just want to finish with Tracy's.
yeah. I didn't have any other feedback on this. This is a little bit different than what Mary prepared for her update to the select board at the end of the month.
Right.
This is more a general overview.
It is, and I had edited that. The version that you saw, I think, was Mary's start and my additions, and
Yep.
but I mean, I think this is fine. It generally
Totally.
says where we're going. I think the major observations you could argue was not so much about staff, but the major observations were about the conditions of the building. But I think it's covered in here, so I won't wordsmith this if you want. I think this is.
And I guess my only other concern is that last sentence of the second paragraph. Of these, the Peabody building appears physically the most viable. I'm not sure that's really a true statement until we do some type of environmental study. Because although it appears to be viable, I think you're going to find a lot of mold and other things in Peabody. That's the only thing I'm a little bit hesitant about.
Well, I think feasibility was. Let me just add this fire run. Yeah, that is a caveat. Appears most
Yeah.
physically viable, though a full analysis is needed. I think that's a good addition here. Okay, I'll just open this up to anybody else on the call who either who needs clarification or has some corrections. Kathy.
Yeah, a question was asked of me, so I'm going to ask it of you folks. When the town made the decision to consolidate the middle schools, um, was there at that time a statement made about the condition of the Peabody School? And is this contradictory or is it in harmony with how we viewed the school several years ago?
There was a study and there was an assessment done by a contractor, and that report's available. I don't think this is contradictory because this still states that, you know, a full analysis is needed to determine conditions, feasibility, and economic justification, especially economic justification. So I I don't think this is conclusive. I think this, Kathy, I don't
Yeah,
think this is inconsistent.
I think the question was arising that somehow the perception was that the buildings were unsuitable for rehabilitation and therefore we needed to build new. So that's where the question was coming from.
Yeah, and I guess I would say that that report is, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, is from 2017. So I think that a lot has changed since then. They were definitely, I mean, I would say the cost to rehabilitate them was definitely prohibitive because you'd be rehabilitating both schools, which is the justification for the consolidation. So, I guess my biggest concern about Peabody, and I'll just say it is, once you look at the environmental conditions of Peabody, I'm not sure what's going to be able to even go in there. And that was to keep it as a middle school. If we're talking about things like putting a preschool there, there might be different rules that have to apply. So, I mean, it looks better than it is. I mean, it is like putting lipstick on a pig over there at Peabody. I guess I mean, I have concerns about the viability of Peabody, but
Okay,
that's my own opinion.
thank you
Yeah,
both.
no. And I think that's a group of that's the view, and maybe this overstates it, although it's a caveat. We could say physically viable. I mean, instead of most. We could. I don't want this to mislead anybody because this is still everything is still underway, especially the economic justifications. And I think
Yeah.
to your point, Kathy, I'm not sure what the report said, but any building can be renovated, uh, including Peabody. The question is whether it's viable. And I know that Russ has given this a lot of thought. I think we're still, and I think there's a consultant who's looking at this. So this is an analysis underway, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's more like the current analysis of the environmental factors to really get current data to see where we're at.
Right. Sven, do you have any comment? Your hand was
Yeah,
raised.
just little comment. I just want to know that the feasibility should not just only limit to environmental conditions. So there are certain things as if we hit kind of the 40% cost to new buildings threshold, you have to bring the building up to code. If you hit 60% of renovation costs to to new build, you're getting an economic kind of feasibility. Does that make sense at all if we hit that? So I would hate to, with that addition, to just limit it only to environmental condition. It's a broad set of feasibility conditions you have to look at.
Agree. Keep on adding things to this last sentence.
Yeah, I mean, maybe put something about fiscal responsibility.
Well,
Economic,
economic
it's in there.
justification.
But I
Yeah.
think I think Sven's right. Like I think it really has to be a little bit more clear in there. And I
Okay.
don't I don't
T
know
t
what the proper wording is, but I'm open to suggestion.
Well, let me take out most. Okay. And one thing, I think it is viable. I think we still have to determine um, whether it's. I think we're leaning in that direction, given all
Yeah.
the options, but it doesn't hurt to take that out. Um, um,
I like taking that out because that
I'll tell you what, I think the co-chairs are going to be submitting this.
Mhm.
I think what we have here is fine for the municipal subgroup, but if Sven, if you and Judith I'm sure your doc, if you want to add something to this that's not contradictory, feel free to do so.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
again, I can't do that without Judy. Judith,
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to see if we're on the same page in general, which appears, so then we can take it separately.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of summarize, I think we have a pretty long way to go on determining if Peabody, I mean, it's viable, if Peabody is a solution, and what kind of solution is it? Yeah, we have a ways to go. But this is kind of the status report. So I'm going to save this document and close it. Okay. Next order of business. So we talked a lot about the matrix, and I have to say, I keep on adding information in columns. So let me just show that a second. I will put that up here because it usually triggers lots of discussion about lots of things. Now, I want to make sure that this is big enough. Let me, how does this look like, Tracy?
It's a little small.
Okay, well, I can't get the whole thing on the page, so
Yeah,
let me
yeah,
just
it's
blow
okay.
this up. So,
Did you resend the most current version, Paul?
yes, the most
It's
current
not a
version.
Google. Yeah, let me just find it in my email and I'll just pull
Yeah,
it
the
aside.
only exception is I did, I noodle almost continuously with this. Um, I have added some columns here, summary columns, which I'm not sure was in your. All these numbers are preliminary, and I'll state right now that what's new here is that we got uh, through Judith, from Russ through Judith, we got these operational costs, which should be the FY26 costs from our Munis system. So this should be pretty accurate. I think I've transcribed these correctly. We need to do QA on these numbers. But so these are the operational costs, the yearly operational costs of running these buildings. And I just included the buildings that might be vacated as opposed to other buildings that we've looked at. Because when I summed these, I didn't want to sum operational savings for buildings that were not going to be vacated. So just if for your information, the yearly operational savings, and I don't know if these look reasonable, just adding up these columns, about $700,000 per year if these operational savings were to be carried by others, assuming the town didn't, so we could, or these buildings were closed, and those are two things we haven't determined yet. The 10-year projections of those operational savings are like almost $7 million. If you kind of multiply those by 10. The other column I took liberty. So we do not have the appraisal values yet. We have assessed values for these properties. There's some question whether these assessed values would be similar if these were not municipal buildings. We're still kind of trying to solve whether these are equivalent to, I guess, privately owned buildings, of a similar size. But I just made the assumption that the appraisal value is going to be similar, if not identical, to the assessed value. I think we should talk about this, Tracy, a little bit, where these numbers, the appraisal values are coming from. But what I did is I just looked at these extrapolated appraisal values of these properties, which are largely dominated by Ripley. On, it's about $22 million if we sold all those buildings. I mean, that is a really rough number, but I'll give it credit that it's, a reasonable order of magnitude, whether it's 20, 30, 40. So it's tens of millions of dollars. Revenue potential if we didn't sell these, if we rented, excuse me, I'm sorry, revenue potential from private ownership of these buildings from taxes, the assessment would be about $300,000 per year. So assuming these buildings were owned by others and we could tax them, it would be about, so over 10 years, this would be about, $3 million worth of taxes. As you can see, we're sort of heading into the very early economic analysis here, and I won't vouch for any of these numbers, but we're starting to kind of add these up. So let's say we didn't sell these, but we rented them, these buildings, based on the square foot of these buildings and taking a really rough $30 per square foot of rental. I know there's a lot of there's a lot of apples and oranges in here. If we rented these buildings, the revenue per year of rental would be about roughly $3 million per year. So these are starting numbers, Tracy, that I think we need to work with and refine as we go along. The other thing.
Can you just clarify that rental, Paul? You're saying that we hold on to the buildings and we rent them?
Right. And we rented it based on the square footage, which is over in this other column over here. Here, building square feet. And they were rented out for, the number that we're using for our rental analysis, which is $30 a square foot. That's what this is. This is just square foot times $30 a square foot per year. So we could get rental revenue yearly of about $3 million, which is, again, largely dominated by Ripley, 1.4 million. There's lots of reasons why these numbers can be questioned, but again, we're early stages of kind of rounding these numbers. We're going to have to look at each one of them to see what makes sense and if those numbers are accurate.
I would just be really cautious about that Ripley rental number for a variety of reasons. But we have as we saw, the original heating system in Ripley that, we literally cross our fingers every winter that nothing's going to happen. There would need to be some renovation if it were going to be a rental.
Yes. Yeah. This is a leap of faith that these buildings are in rental condition right now. So many reasons why these numbers can be questioned, but just starting to gather the information that we're going to need to do the economic analysis. Just very briefly on the bottom here, these numbers are still, so these are buildings that we could move into. 2229, there are no buildings. So we are going to need a new building cost estimate, assuming whether this is a top choice or not. If we build a building that would house 135 municipal staff, what the size of that building would be, what the cost would be. Don't have that number yet. Peabody School. We don't have so in the future, we would need an operational cost of actually operating the building. We don't have those numbers yet. We do have a very rough.
Well, do we have some operational numbers from last year for what the current conditions are, but again, the Peabody, even the renovation of Peabody, and I hate to be like the bearer of bad news, but that was to renovate it as a school. So the renovation and also cost escalation, particularly in municipal construction, has really gone up. So I'm not sure that those numbers are going to be accurate. And I know this is just a starting point, but I just feel like I have to do that.
I will say for the public that none of these numbers are accurate.
Okay.
Again, absolutely no.
Okay, thank you. That's all I just want to keep saying, because I think when people hear a number, then they get stuck on that number. So as long as we just keep saying these numbers are not
We have
accurate.
to, I put color codings and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to update these numbers, but it's a working matrix, and
Yeah.
by the time we're done with this, we'll have volume 20.0.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's lots of uncertainty, but I did ask recently for I think I asked Russ through Judith, what were the most recent operational costs of Peabody when it was operating as a school? So I could just have a filling in number for the size of a building, because it's an up-to-date heating system, and while insulation and other things are and the windows are pretty new. So there's a number that we can fill in here.
Do you want me to get you that number through Bob Conry's office for what it cost in it would have to be 2024 to 2025? I mean, we know it was about 30,000
Yeah,
the last
yeah,
few months, but I
yeah,
can probably get better numbers.
yeah. And we do have operational costs for Ripley. I only put that number here because I was uncertain what it was. So we do have these two numbers
Yeah.
available as an estimate. Um, the leasing option here, if you remember the last time we discussed this, was taking 100 staff at at $150 a square foot per staff. This is Judith's estimate, $30 a square foot. That just came up as that number, pretty large number as a rental cost. Okay, and then the capital renovation costs are highly uncertain. These numbers have floated around in terms of what it would take to. This came from Russ. I won't characterize this other than the back of the envelope estimate that you discussed, and this comes from the Gorman Richards report, this renovation, whether those numbers are accurate or not. So anyway, just these are numbers that we are filling in. So I'll stop there, and this usually generates a lot of discussion. One of the and a lot of these columns are empty because we haven't. These are the qualitative numbers. We haven't as a subgroup really evaluated these yet. And there's a column here. We have to separate the land assessment from the building assessment. That wasn't clear in all of the assessment values, so we still have some work to do on these two columns. So
Did Mary get that update before she left? Because was she supposed to do that and the real estate brokers? Were we gonna work with real estate brokers at all?
well, I haven't seen that,
Okay.
Tracy. And as far as the real estate, Sven, maybe you know that. So
Yeah,
we
there's a meeting coming up. So the way Carrie Lafleur wants to structure it is, besides the assessor data, that we have a preliminary valuation estimate from real estate people, and I think it's is it already this week, the meeting? I'm just swamped with meetings here. It's coming up, so there's a
Yeah.
meeting coming up next Friday, where we can just, in a kind of a workshop environment, get rough estimates from real estate person. The one thing I
Excellent.
want to emphasize definitely on the land assessment, it's great that you separate that out. I would be super careful to rely on the assessment of the assessor on land, because if you analyze their data, they notoriously undervalue the land. So it's better if we get kind of an understanding. If we have, I don't know, let's pick Peabody. If you would convert Peabody in a residential development area, zoned residential B, that price looks completely different than what the assessor has. So
Yeah.
that's something to understand.
From the subgroup, from my point of view, to fill in these numbers here, since there are questions about, well, the question about the assessment values of number one, under assessing the value of land, but also whether these assessments are would be equivalent if these were privately owned buildings. So this assessment based on municipal ownership, and my understanding from Mary through Meredith was that these numbers would be different if these buildings were actually privately owned, which means that the tax value, which this value here, is based on this value here. So these two columns, column F and column I, are interdependent. I appreciate we're going to have meetings, but at some point we actually may need a workshop to sit down as a group and fill in these numbers. But so you answered the question where these the appraisal updates are coming from, and so that's great. So again, these numbers are probably just rough ballpark. So thank you for that,
Yeah,
Sven.
the assessment value is definitely the critical path right now. Yeah.
Oops, what did I just do? Okay.
And Sven, there's no money to do appraisals of any of these. Is there any money in ARPA funds or
So
anything else? Appraisals?
Carrie really wanted to say first get before we spend money, make a preliminary valuation estimate. That's how she calls it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then if we narrow in to say we need to be really refined on certain buildings, that would be the next step to get really kind of more in-depth stuff. If we
Okay.
do this very broadly on 18 plus buildings, the cost is just getting through the roof here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what's interesting to me, and this again, assuming we have all the columns here and have captured the potential revenues from a variety of angles, whether tax revenues from a sale or rental revenues, that we are beginning to, at least on the vacated building, see that there is there are revenues to be made, which in an economic analysis could justify large renovations. I'm not saying we're there yet, but these numbers aren't an order of magnitude different from what we would need to renovate one of these buildings. So it's getting more interesting, and I think we're going to have to tighten that up. So at the end of the day, whether we build a new building somewhere or whether we renovate Peabody, those numbers are roughly they can be explained and justified and withstand the scrutiny of any public examination. So, again, continue work in progress on all these numbers. We can leave it there unless anybody outside Tracy and Sven have any comments or questions on any of this.
I just have again one quick question again, all
Yeah.
not wrong, but there seems to be might be one number that seems to point in a certain order of magnitude, which is the leasing price of 450,000. Can you scroll down to that?
Yeah,
So
this.
it is 100 people, 30 square foot, it's $30 per year, 150 square foot per person. That seems,
Let me see.
yeah, that the math works.
130 to 150.
Yeah, that math works up.
Um,
Because that I think it's an interesting number, because if you're thinking about financing costs of $30 million of doing something or $20 million of doing something versus leasing it for 450 per year, that that's something at least probably you will face some questions from the finance committee.
yeah.
All right.
Well, again, we're just leaving this as an option. Since our last meeting, I think it was a sense of the subgroup, we had the MCI Wardens building on here, and we kind of redlined it, having visited the building and all things being, we just took that off of here. I don't know, Tracy, whether that was a preemptive deletion or in my mind, I think it's not a viable option given timing and condition and the size of the building. But we could leave it on here, but I think right now, these are kind of the four options that we're kicking around.
Yeah, I think there are just too many unknowns, and I feel like
Yeah.
these are the options that we discussed at our last meeting that are most viable short term. Short term meaning like 5 years.
Yep. Yep. And Sven, I'll ask you, where can we get new building costs? Who can we ask? I guess we could ask Tyler Springs or anybody who is in this business, but to build a new building at 222 Main Street, or even build a new building at Peabody. Let's say we knock down old Peabody and put a new building up. Because I know there's a sense in the FinCom that building a new building is cheaper than renovating a building. I've heard that. So
It's that 60% threshold that is always coming up. Is if you renovate it, compared with new building costs and you reach that 60% threshold, it's better in the long term to just build new, because you just, if you renovate, you have continuous kind of renovation going on. So getting new building cost, I think, let me consult with Judith. She has a lot of access to data to make this stuff comparable. And it also depends on what you're building. If you're building something for a school, is you have a completely different standard.
Yeah.
And if you do office building, or if you do like in the public works subgroup, is if you're just building garage, that's again a different per square foot cost.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think we'd be building a building that would house municipal staff plus, programmatic. For example, council, a senior center. And right now, the sense is we'd shift the Ripley preschool over to the new facility. So it'd have to be a combination of office space and program space.
So
So
in the end, you have to say, make a table, say you need
yeah,
square footage of X for this use. That's if you just look at the municipal, just office buildings, that's office use. So that's easy.
yeah,
If you're talking about council of aging and so on with the kitchen, somehow you need to build a table to say if you're shifting and you have to rebuild, this is square footage classified by use.
right. And I'm betting that Russ has thought about this, and maybe Russ, if you can kind of, not right now, but but give us a number, because you've thought in the context of Peabody, which we'll talk about in a minute. You thought about office space and program space, and maybe we could just translate what you've thought about in Peabody to a new building table in that regard.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Excuse me. Yeah, first off, on the renovation metrics, 40 to 60% is really, that's on the commercial side. So it's a good guideline. But Concord being a sustainable town, we have to take, building life cycle costs into effect. How much does it cost to put a building into a dumpster? We wear sustainability on our lapels, so we have to walk the walk. So it's a bigger question, and it needs more analysis naturally. As far as the use in the Peabody, it's going to be a new use. It would be an entire new build out, so it would be under different codes. Right now, walking through the building multiple times, being in there, we basically meet most of the egress codes and stuff that's been brought up before. So it's basically systems and spaces. So we're very comfortable with the numbers we've put out there.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about Peabody in a second. I'm going to give you the.
Yeah.
I just want to leave sort of the matrix and the data needs, and I think for me, the two big ones right now, other than refining some of the numbers, are the appraisal values and the new building cost values. Those are the two big ones. We'll refine a lot of the other ones as we go along.
Yeah, and Paul, I think that, when we are talking about a new build, I mean, this is a municipal building, so it's going to be kind of like the town, when with the school process for building a school, it's not as though, because like Tyler Spring, I think would be a good resource, but it's a totally different ballgame when you're going out for, procurement purposes from the town versus a private individual.
Yeah.
And I do agree with Russ on the sustainability. I mean, we look at the middle school and they're, it's 100% carbon net neutral, and that does come with a cost. And the solar project is still not totally complete what it should have been. So there are some hiccups that go along with new building with that. So that is a good note to just have in there.
Before we leave the matrix, even though it's not on here, the question of assessment values of a municipal building versus the equivalent assessment value if that were a private structure. Sven, that has to, Mary may have that information. She's in Paris. I'm not going to bother her. So we'll wait till she gets back. And, but that's a conversion that we have to do as well. So I think we're going to leave the matrix unless sounds like
Yep.
sci-fi. We can leave the matrix. Let's leave the matrix and get into Peabody.
I think you have a couple hands up, Paul.
Oh, we do.
Yep.
Let's go with Brigitte.
Hi everyone, Brigitte Steenis, Inkstone Architects. I just wanted to add to the comments. I totally understand the fiscal restrictions, but I also understand that Concord has a long history of great architecture. And I just wanted to add that to the environmental responsibility that the Peabody building has architectural value, which adds to the town. So this aspect also shouldn't be forgotten in all the aspects. And I know fiscal is very important to everyone to get it through the boards. But I just wanted to weigh that in.
Could you introduce yourself? I know you're working with Alan and Russell. Could you introduce yourself?
Yes, I can repeat that. My name is Brigitte Steenis, Inkstone Architects. So I'm an architect.
Okay. And you're working with Alan?
Yes, we have worked on the study.
Yes,
with Russ. Yeah.
Kathy.
Yeah, thank you. My question has to do with the numbers in the spreadsheet. So Paul, I don't know if you just want to take this offline with me and help me through it.
Yeah, why don't we do that? I mean,
okay, because there's and I'm representing the finance committee, so there are going to be questions. The one thing that stuck out, and Sven, you pointed to it, was the rental price of 450,000. Was I reading that correctly? Is that for the entire population of municipal workers?
this is for an estimate of 100 staff. Now, it's not all the municipal workers. We identified, we looked at all the buildings and we looked at the staff in those buildings, right? And assuming those staff would move over, that was 136. And so whether all those staff would move over, most of them, or whether they move in stages, we need to determine that. So there's an upper number of 136. I took a lower number of 100 staff, each requiring 150 square feet of office space. Maybe that's a little high. And $30 a square foot to rental. And that number is 450,000. Could be higher, could be lower. That's where the number comes from.
Okay, thank you. I'll send you a note and maybe we can pick a time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to hate these numbers, I'll tell you right now. But
Yeah.
but it's a start, right?
Well, I get that.
We'll get to the point where we love these numbers. Well, we like these numbers. I don't know if we'll ever love them, but we'll like them. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing this, okay? Okay, next agenda topic is Russ on Peabody.
Russ oh, he's there. He's back. Sorry. I thought he was gonna be right back. He's back.
It's all yours. Do you have you had a PowerPoint? Do you want to use that, or you're on mute?
Yeah, that's why people like me, Paul, muted. I have the presentation up if I can share.
I think Shannon has the share button.
Yeah, I don't see it on my end yet.
Shannon, are you there to permit Russ to share?
I think he's a co-host and he should be able to share.
Yeah, I'm looking, everybody. Yeah, I don't have any sharing.
I'll go
I
check
think
one second, but
somehow I've become a co-host. I don't know how, but let me see if I can give you sharing, Russ.
All right, wait, let me try this.
I don't
here
know
I
how
go.
I can
Maybe
do it
it's
as a co-host.
under host tools.
No, I
I
don't. It's
can-
weird. It says I'm a co-host, but I don't have the ability. Sorry.
Okay, I have
Yeah.
the, I
Oh,
have
wait a second,
the,
there I am. I got it. I found
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Hang on. There we go. There it is. See that?
great, perfect, got it.
Okay, so let's preface this before we get into it. Brigitte is here. She is graciously agreed to come online with us today. She's in Germany, I believe. So I don't know what time it is over there. I don't know what she's doing over there, but she's taking time out of her vacation to spend with us. So I appreciate that. So what we did is we wanted to do a very high level overview of the available space at Peabody and what possible spaces in town could fit in there. So, and also to identify a couple other issues that would improve the building. So my direction to the team was to analyze the building, current square footage, along with some departments we identified there in the presentation, and see what will fit. This is not a design. It's never intended to be a design. This is a flavor, and to see what could actually happen over there.
Hey, Russ.
You
Hi,
guys
how
are
you
very
doing?
here. Yeah.
I see all my besties on this call. All right, I'm muting now.
All right. Um, so one of the first directions I gave to Inkstone is it, this was going to be a net zero building. That's how we're characterizing it. And we had to fit in all of the spaces we wanted to fit in, if they would fit in, not forcing them. We put the thumb on the scale for a little bit of growth potential for each of those uses. They evaluated the parking, and they've evaluated basically, high level, what we could do to be a net zero building moving forward, utilizing the soccer field as a geothermal heat sink for the project, which is adjacent, in addition to solar on the roof and everything else. So I will let Eve and Brigitte take it from here because they know the drawings as well as I do, and they can speak much more clearly than me.
What? Russ.
Okay.
Okay, Brigitte, do you want to
You
do
want-
this? Or do you
Sure.
want- Okay, you go for it.
Sure, I can walk you through. Russ, do you have the movie here we did, or should
No,
we walk through the?
I just have the presentation at this point.
Okay, then let's start with the
So-
presentation. And basically maybe we're gonna start here with the overview with the next slide, Russ, if you could do that. So basically what we did, we looked at all the facilities, where the facilities are located, how do they relate to the location of the Peabody School. So that was one of the first steps, if many offices can be combined, and what it means basically also for the travel time for everyone. That is the first slide, but I don't think it makes sense to dive into every location, and I would rather go to the next slide if possible. So then, of course, we toured the building, looked at every corner of the facility. How could it be used? How's the relationship within the building to each other? How is the access from the outside? What does it mean for parking, and also for the separation, not only combining it, but also for different uses, how it could be used, that there are no disturbance to each other. So this is just we took the old drawings, we found old drawings in the archive, we checked what has been changed. There were modifications when the elevator was added, ramps were added. and did a first shot on just examining what is there. And of course, I mean, like everybody knows, the building is not up to code, neither in terms of bathrooms, all ramps, access, and so on. Okay, that is existing, and then maybe the next slide. That is the second story. And then the next one. And then we looked at basically just from a very high level program area perspective, what is needed and how is it in proportion, just to get a grip on it, how much space is needed for the different uses. Like for the Concord Council on Aging, which is about 20 people, which is the more raspberry or lighter red brown color in the image what you're seeing. And this is just really area distribution. It does not mean exactly it's located in that way. It's just a first step of understanding what is the size we need, what size do we have. The recreational department is shown as the darker brown area on the left side of the screen. Then we have the carousel daycare in blue, the area with about 6 people working there, employees. And then we have the circulation areas are the brown. They're not really depicted yet, and the bathrooms. So this is just really to give an overview of the areas for the first floor as showing the size basically and not more. And on the second floor we have the planning department, natural resources commission in yellow with about 3 people. We have a town manager with 4 and deputy town manager with 4 people. That could be the yellow area. We have a town building department with a total of 14 people on the right in the violet, more lilac color on the side. And then just to give an idea how much space we would need for the town facility and town archives in orange and green. Right. Yes. And then maybe the next slide.
Just a quick question, if I can interrupt.
Yes.
So on the numbers of people, so this rough number of 100 people, which could be higher than that, is potentially moving. Are you saying this building could or could not accommodate the number of people?
It could.
It could. Because I'm
could,
not seeing
yeah.
I'm not seeing those numbers approaching that.
Paul, some of the numbers might be off, but the square footage works still. Where square footages are based on existing buildings and then pumped up a little bit. The numbers that I gave them are like the critical people would be in the building most of the time. There's other
Okay.
staff in and out. So yeah, it's a little confusing at this point, much like the Matrix. But there is a lot of square footage over there.
Yeah,
Can I just
I
ask
agree.
about the school district too? Because it's listed as school district, but I'm not seeing where what color that would fit under.
Again, we have it listed there as a 10,000 square feet that we pulled out of Ripley. And we weren't able to fit it in any one space. Further design up, as you get further into design, if you do the math, the 10,000 will fit. But as you get further into design, you'll be able to place it better. It just wasn't able to be located at the anywhere in here right now, like where you see cafe. We could put the school district in there, part of it, or downstairs. There is a lot of room.
And
But
does
we
that
just-
also, does it account for the classrooms and the people from the school district, or just?
No,
the
just a
individual?
school district.
So just employees of the
Yeah,
school
this is-
district, but not
Yeah.
any of the preschool classrooms.
No, I think, Brigitte, I think we did talk about adding all of that into where the carousel is.
We did add the classrooms, or we counted for the classrooms. And coming back to the square footage versus people, yes, these numbers still have to be reconciled, but there was plenty of space. So if you see a number of like 5 people under planning department, then it means there could be, from a square footage point of view, there could be more people. It's just the design number we were working with. But there is more space than the people number showing on the left side. I think that would be the next step of fine-tuning and a different level of detail looking into that. How is, like, also to your question, Tracy, classrooms or no classrooms, really taking that space and then making really a layout. This is not a layout yet. This is really more a visualized matrix than anything.
Yeah, and just as to your point, if you add up the numbers in the planning department, so that's 16 people, but at 150 square feet, they only need 2,400 square feet. So there's
Yeah.
that could accommodate more than those people. So I understand what you've done. Yeah, thank you.
Correct. Yeah.
I just want to note that the COA number listed at 16,000 square feet is basically all of COA, the entire building. It includes the carousel currently. So COA number is a very healthy number on this floor plan, just to put that out there.
So that
all right,
expands the current space they have now, Russ, or keeps it the same?
Oh, it greatly expands it. The carousel space is 2 to 3 times the size they have currently.
What about the COA space? I just want to make sure I understand.
It's probably 30–40% greater.
Okay.
And again, the carousel space, if you say it's 2 to 3 times, I just want to make sure that the integrated preschool is also, I mean, I think integrated preschool is bigger than carousel spaces.
Yeah, all of the existing preschool spaces we have are highly inefficient spaces. This would be a full new design, so even though we have enough square footage, it's going to be much higher utilization and better outcome for space once we get going, if we get going with this. So, yeah, so we've taken that into account. All right, so here is the existing site plan, and so we got 26. We got it. I don't have the math on it. I can read it on my screen.
It says
So,
61 for us.
Yeah,
I'll
61.
trust you. I'll trust you guys. So that's the existing. So this is as designed for the load we're planning, we're assuming can fit into this building. So you can see the roundabouts change, the orientation has changed. And there's some added spaces here. And I think that was 170, right?
We
123.
128, that was.
123. We do have plenty of parking, and we did match. Basically, we did a high level estimate on how much parking we need, and for the different uses, it's calculated by square footage and by people in there, and of course, accessible parking close to the entrance. That the backside can be accessed also for utilities as delivery and so on, but also important installing solar roofs on the. Somehow I got an echo. I don't know if it's me or not. So also the accessibility, the solar roofs for the parking can be accommodated then on the front parking lot. And maybe then to the next slide, if we can.
There it is.
Great. And then for a town building, and this is not an architectural design which is in any way set in stone, what it should convey is that the current entrance of the Peabody School served a different purpose and came from a different time, and it needs to be a town building which is inviting to everyone, and it should be clearly marked that if you come driving towards this building, understanding this is the entrance and this is an welcoming, open building which draws people in and are welcome. And this is what this image should convey, that the entrance needs change to serve the new purpose of the building. And this is I don't know if that goes too much into the architecture right now, but one of the great architectural features of this building, and which have so much value, are the balconies, open walkways on the exterior. And what we did is we took these exterior walkways, brought them into the foyer on the second floor, and created a very open, lightweight cube which connects the different wings within the building in a light way, and at the same time connects the exterior and the interior with that. And that's what this picture shows. And if I can also show a little video what we did. I think there it's easier to understand, but I'm not sure if I have sharing.
I think I can get it right here if I can find it real quick.
Yeah.
That's always the question, finding it real quick.
Russ, I think the movie is the last two slides of the slideshow presentation are the
Right.
movie.
And I'm gonna plug in my laptop before.
I have it right here. No, that's not the same. It's there first.
That's it. Yes, the fast one. Yep.
Yeah.
Exterior fast one. Perfect. Thank
Let's see
you.
if this works.
Yeah. It should.
It should.
Yeah. So that's the fast version. So you see the exterior balconies, how they lead into the inside. Great.
And again, these are just ideas. Nothing's designed yet, but
Yeah, so
juices are flowing.
for purposes of our work here, where we do have to come up with reasonable cost estimates for all different pieces. And I know we've kicked around a lot of big numbers. How do we get a reasonable number for renovating? And so I'm seeing sort of a renovation plus a partial build, right? Because the architecture, it's not just renovation of the existing structure. Interior, it's adding on. So how do we collectively, or how do you guys come up with a reasonable cost estimate without going out for bid, or maybe we go out for information, request for an RFI. But how do we? What's your suggestion on how to kind of firm up? Maybe that's overstatement. Firm up a reasonable estimate here.
We're as close as we can on square footages that Judith and I have spoken about, in Inkstone as well as, we've had conversations. We could look at things a little more critically, but the range we're talking about for a mid-level renovation, where you spend the money, where it matters the most, which in EB's case would be the HVAC systems and then updated entry, whatever that ends up being. So I'm still comfortable with the 30-35 that we had talked about million.
My suggestion would be to also consult before it goes out to bid to contractors who have worked with these type of buildings, and particularly bringing them up to a net zero standard into a modern standard. And there are plenty of examples of companies who have done that, and working with. So we as an architect would basically tap into their knowledge and put these together based on previous numbers to come up with something more realistic.
Yes, we are going to need that. I mean, Tracy, I'm not sure I'm comfortable going with a 30-35 number, although it's
I'm
probably
still not really comfortable on that.
no, I'm sure it's well reasoned
Yeah.
based on, square footage, renovation costs at a medium level. But it would be good to get a couple of independent views of this. And I don't know whether the RFI route is a reasonable route to ask contractors to kind of but you got to give them a plan to do that. And so, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg to go out for a third-party
But Paul,
estimate.
isn't this more to bring back to the full committee, to the full land use working committee? But I feel like we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves with this. And I feel like it needs more vetting and discussion by the full committee.
Well, it does, but I mean, our job the municipal needs to be based on economic analysis where we say vacating of these buildings and um, availing ourselves of the opportunity for revenue generation of those buildings and the cost of renovating Peabody. Here's what they are. I mean, and here's our recommendation. We can't do Peabody or we can do Peabody. I think we need to bring it to the full committee, but I think we need to come up with a sort of recommendation of our piece, which is based on a reasonable economic analysis. That's what I'm thinking. So what is a reasonable economic analysis based on?
Well, and I wonder if there's just a way that we can go look at other towns, because all these buildings are kind of built at the same time, to see what they're going through right now. Because, I know, like, let's put Boxborough out there, for example. They've got a big fire station project that's coming up, but I think we should be looking at what other towns in Massachusetts are doing. And we certainly do this with school buildings. We look at what the construction costs are and new school builds, and that is significantly escalated even over the past 2 years. So I think we need to go out there and look at what other towns' experiences for new builds and for renovations, because we're all kind of in the same boat with buildings that are built at the same time.
Well, you raise a good point because Kerry has said several times that there are other municipalities that have converted school buildings into municipal buildings. So that's Sven, that's sort of a task that I think that either we or the chairs or the town needs to undertake, sort of request of other municipalities for that historical information. I think that would be a good counterweight, I guess, to our 30 or 35 million number.
Yeah, I think that this building, as this is not showing up in the use of any of the other subgroups, it's clearly falling into your subgroups scenario analysis. You have to bring it up, and you can ask for guidance in the overall group. I think right now, order of magnitude is important. So where does it end in the order of magnitude? If it's in the end a few dollars left or right, I think that's in our scenario planning and the timelines. There's so much uncertainty. It's more the order of magnitude that I think from the overall bringing the puzzle together plays a role. When you look at that, I don't know, I think we received thoughts from one FinCom member, Don Kupka, around the building and questions he raised based on his experience with dealing with renovation of buildings out of that time frame. So you definitely should have to look at which of these questions need to, I would say, further analyzed and potentially budgeted. That I think would add to the list of things to look at.
Mhm.
If
Yeah,
ending in a kind of a dead end with the town to figure out the costs, bring it up to Judith and me, and we have to figure out where we prioritize say our budget. We have a limited budget to spend on things. Yeah.
Well, and I
yeah,
guess the other thing, Sven, I would ask is where Ripley and Peabody are kind of like these two enormous buildings. I do think that like the appraisal was supposed to be done by the town of the Peabody building, which didn't get done. I mean, we might, I just think it would be helpful to have the appraisal of Peabody and of Ripley and then to decide about the parcels because Peabody has 3 parcels. Peabody, Peabody has 3 parcels. Ripley has the fields and the building, and to kind of parse out what we could do with both campuses because they are campuses.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, just that's my personal view is I think these things come in a tandem. You have to look at these two things together.
Yeah.
And figure out what is going on there.
yeah.
Because I mean, we wouldn't keep both of them. I mean, there's just a reality. Is
No,
something's going to get sold. So which one's going to get sold?
exactly.
Yeah, Eve, I'll get to you in a minute. So the more I'm thinking, Tracy, we have to come up with a recommendation based on, I'll call it best estimates, plausible assumptions. But that's not the end of the game. And with that recommendation, then there has to be some really detailed analysis done to see whether, whether we can actually proceed with that recommendation, right? It could be we can't. We could recommend something that turns out with detailed analysis, with RFIs, with a plan that the economics don't balance. But we can't. I don't think we can take it that far. We have to come up with numbers, assumptions, good numbers that we can make a recommendation one way or another. Eve?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Well aware that I'm busting into y'all meeting here, but
Hey, I bust into your meetings. Go
you
ahead.
do. You bust into my meeting all the time. I just want to say that in the process of doing this analysis with Russ and getting into the PD building when it's no longer a school, I just have to say that not all buildings are created equal. They are made at the same time period, but this building was designed by the Architects Collaborative, which is has some it has some gravitas in our whole area, like that group. And when you get in there, as I'm sure you all have already, and you see it not swamped with kids, not with lowered ceilings, and realize that the structure is so flexible with its pier design and that the concrete is not quite as bad as we all think it is. It can be repaired fairly easily. I'm hoping that there's some way that obviously this is going to come down to a financial analysis, but if we could put our thumb on the scale toward the design of that building over Ripley, which I'm not intimately familiar with, but I've been there a bunch. It's such a great architectural resource that we happen to have in our community. And I never really understood it when my kids were in school there until we walked through it recently with Russ. It's a great, great building. We have done a couple more movies of what it could be, but if you guys are familiar with the Assabet River Bridge movie that just came out, from planning for that bridge project, we can make things like that to show what our vision could be for that building. We're just in love with it so much right now, that if there's any room for design consideration, then I vote for the Peabody building over Ripley.
Well, I think where we are, I don't think Ripley, correct me if I'm wrong, Tracy, is the viable consolidation target. I think the viable consolidation targets are Peabody, rental, or build a new building somewhere. Those are the 3 that we haven't ruled out. I think having toured Ripley and seeing just its layout and its difficulties, that would be a tough building to consolidate anything into. It's a better building to knock down or sell or make.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Ripley
Yeah.
would be a rebuild, But I guess, I think we have to decide, like, is Ripley a rebuild? What makes the most sense financially? Because clearly the town is under some financial pressure here. Is it a rebuild at Ripley or is it a renovation at Peabody? And I just don't want to get so far down one road of moving forward with Peabody without having all the information to analyze.
Yeah, looking at precedents is a good idea too, but keep in mind that this building is unique. The Peabody building is really unique. And so I am just going to reiterate what Brigitte said, which is that we could get a high level estimate from contractors who know these buildings and know renovations fairly easily in these time periods where everything is fluctuating on costs for construction anyway. Okay, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox now. Continue with your meeting.
Well, I want to pick up on something you said. You said we could get a high level estimate fairly easily. I think that's what. How would we do that? That would be very useful to get a high level estimate.
Go, Brigitte. Explain the high level estimate.
I think I think that's a combination of what Tracy said, which is really good in terms of looking at other towns. What did they do? But really approaching these contractors. There's, for example, the Winchester High School, which was an old building and is renovated already, but they brought it totally up to standards. It's a little bit of a different case because also what you said before, Paul, is we are going towards in terms of the use, we are going a step lower in terms of challenges. Before we were trying, or before it was a school, and of course the building standard does not match the requirements of a school anymore. But from the requirements, what we are looking for now is a little bit lower than if we would put another school in there. So it makes it a little bit easier. And in terms of getting costs, it's really there are contractors out there who are also specializing in this net zero, and particularly in combination with the with concrete buildings. And I've seen many concrete buildings which are spalding or going really not in a good state. But Peabody is different. That was a good build. I mean, they did a great job. I didn't see any building. I mean, there's wear and tear, and of course the bathrooms do not match anymore or many things. But from a structural point of view, I mean structural, I mean the bones of the building are great. There was not much damage. There was not really nothing substantial which you would expect out of that time, and that's astonishing. The other comment I would make is that it is a challenge which Concord was in many ways always architecturally in buildings a trailblazer, and here's an unbelievable great chance to do that. This could be the first building fully net zero conversion in Massachusetts. This is really a chance also. It's not only a challenge, it's really a chance which could be taken because the fields are there in where the geothermal could be done. The school is there where we can also put the solar on the roof and on roof decks. It's a great chance to do something with it as a first, being a first, and showing not only showing to other towns what did they do, but also taking the chance and saying we can do that, and we can be the first and leading the way in how it's done.
A quick question, a detailed question on the geothermal in the field. What does that involve? Does that field have to be taken out of commission as a field, or the geothermal is
No,
peripheral?
Paul, we would use that as our heat source, and then as part of the project, we would renovate that field surface to make it a better playing surface and add maybe a few more amenities over there for the soccer leagues.
The
Okay.
geothermal, I don't know how familiar you are with geothermal in general, but geothermal is totally invisible. So they need some access to the pumps, but that's really minor. So right now we are building a building where the geothermal is under the building, under the basement. So it can be used as a soccer field. You can build over it. It's a non-disturbance thing. So,
But the geothermal, so that would be the equipment would be resident within the Ripley building. whatever pumps and whatever exchanges you need yet?
It would be a
That-
small equipment shed out on the field. And then the pipes, it's an adjacent property, we would have buried pipes coming up into the mechanical room at the Peabody School, tie into the existing systems. Displacing the gas boilers, which would only remain for emergency situations in extreme cold weather. It would also allow air conditioning in the existing system, which they don't have now.
No, it's an intriguing conversation because I'll call the net zero benefit. That's sort of that's a bit of an icing on the cake, if you will. You know, we have a building, but we can make it better and would satisfy some other goals within the town, other than the municipal consolidation. I'm kind of thinking out loud here, Tracy, but you know, climate action, sustainability, you know, it may not justify the investment, but just something we have to think about. I hadn't thought about that before. Thank you guys. That was really very enlightening. Love your movie. Love the entrance. A lot of glass. I think I'll move in there. So that is it for PBD, and that is it for our agenda. Any other comments at this point?
I have one comment, Paul. If you or Russ or anyone needs different visual graphics or more visual graphics, we have the base of everything, then we could make it more if you wanted to present it with somebody else. We could do a panel on history of the building. We could do, like, we have all of this stuff we didn't show you. So if there comes a time that you need to sway audiences, we probably have it already done. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, we do have the interior walkthrough, which
Yeah.
is probably we are all running out of time, but Russ and
Yeah.
Office,
I
Well,
have it up.
they have the interior walkthrough. If I don't know if you have that, Russ.
Another
I
question.
have
Can you send those along so we can view them?
Yeah,
'Cause I don't think
probably.
we
I
have
will-
those. And I
Yeah,
guess
Yeah.
my only other, I had another question that I think I've lost my train of thought now.
Let me ask the question as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Until I lose my train of thought. We had talked about phasing or staging, you know, so maybe we move these three buildings and the staff 1 year and we kind of phase this. Is that inefficient in terms of a renovation plan to do that? So we can renovate in phases, we move people in phases, you know, to kind of spread out the costs over a long period of time. Is that feasible in your mind?
Me, it's it adds a little bit of cost, but it's not a huge issue with Peabody because of the condition of the building and the way it's constructed. It's a very easy building to work in. So, yeah, it adds some cost, and it actually, you know, could work to the benefit of the town as things change. If you phase it, you know, you can modify your plans moving forward. But yeah, wouldn't be a deal breaker cost wise.
Well, I assume you couldn't get pieces up to code. You'd have to get the whole building up to code, for example, right? I mean,
No, you get partial occupancies.
could you?
Yeah, you would likely put in a full fire protection system right off the bat, but you wouldn't energize the whole thing. You'd get the big pieces done, knowing what's coming down the pike. Then it becomes what we call in the industry basically a tenant fit out, which is a really inexpensive way to change space around.
Okay,
Okay, I
thank
thought a
you.
couple of my questions. Well, one being if you're going to have an early childhood center there, it sounds like you're going to have to bring it up to code for that. My question was on the geothermal, does CMLP have the capability of accepting that? Because I feel like that's kind of because of the location of where it is. I hear a lot about like bus bars and things like that. I'm not an expert on any of those things, and I won't pretend to be, but I just want to make sure, do they have the capability if that was the direction you're moving in?
Geothermal is not electric, it's a liquid system.
It's liquid from like the ground, so it wouldn't have the only
has no-
CMLP would be through solar.
Yeah, CMLP will be involved intricately in any programs we do. I've already talked to Jason about ground source heat pumps. And he's very excited about the prospect of that being a net zero building with that as part of the component. He had looked into possible grants and such, but since we are, the CMLP is the CMLP, there's nothing really available to us from the electrical side of it or the gas provider side of it because the gas numbers are so low. But yeah, Jason's aware of the concept and he's just not to speak for him, but he seemed to be in favor of it at that time.
And then I guess my other question, this would be probably for Eve and Brigitte, that how long would a renovation take? Like, what would be the timeline?
That's a good question. Which is a really complex question here to do that all. So of course there would be the planning phase ahead, which can going through all the boards and all the instances, which can easily be a year as the very minimum. And then I would say at least a year as well.
It
as a
also
starting
depends,
point.
Tracy, it depends on if you're doing phased work. If you treat each of these
Correct.
wings as a separate project, if you're phasing it out by wing, it would take much longer. And Paul kind of indicated that he believed it would be more expensive to do it over phases. I think that's what you implied, Paul, and you're right. It's always more expensive to do things in phases, but if that's what we have to do to make this project real and then the renovation would extend over years, right? It would be a different wing each year. It's probably most efficient to do it all at once and get it done in 1 year, especially with fluctuating prices.
Yeah, I'm not sure with planning board and plans and permits, we can actually phase it through the planning board. We'll have to kind of figure that out. Well, we're almost at the bottom of the hour, and Alan, you had your hand up a minute ago.
Just two comments. One, I think if there is real interest, it would be helpful to give Russ feedback on the presentation, and possibly if it needs to go to the broader group, maybe they can put together that other sort of video just to help people see things. I think you took a while to get to the point of the unique nature of the building. I think you should be leading with that. That's important. That I think was lost. I didn't understand that. That's has merits, and Tracy's concerns are certainly generically, accurate, but specifically maybe it's, a different situation. And I think we just need to highlight that. And the other thing is I'm just sensitive to all the things that can be done. Presently, I'm just concerned about budget and resources. So we have to be very strategic as far as what we're asking for, where we're getting the funding. I think that's something internally it's important, because as we peel back, the layers, we need to have costs for the professionals to do things, but I think right now you're getting to a point where you might want to start identifying that. But we do have finite resources available as we speak. I just put that on the radar as a reminder.
Thank you, Alan, for pointing that out. Thank you.
And Sven and I think for the larger group, I mean, the question I would have is how far down the road does each subgroup go in terms of supporting a recommendation? Just what level of analysis is needed to support a recommendation? Because as Alan's point, if you go down to deeper analysis, this can require manpower, may require funding. So we'll have to discuss that.
I think we will have the discussion on Friday, but for all subgroups, they have to reach a point on the different options / scenarios they are looking to say what is kind of the reasonable order of magnitude you can get to without spending too much money by going into a rabbit hole. And then get guidance from the overall group to say what are the kind of priorities and then we set the priorities where we can spend the budget and go the next level and 2 levels deeper. Sharing this presentation to the full group, I think it's up to you to think about the timing when you do that. I would advise that at that time, the headcount numbers that would fit into this should be consistent. Right now, it leaves the impression you're just using 5,000 square foot in one wing for 12 people. And that could be confusing for the overall group and for the public. So I think it's useful to imagine this, but you have to make your call. When do you generate more questions or confusions, and at what time you want to share this overall thing?
Well, I think sharing this Peabody presentation, it has to be in the overall context of what the subgroup is doing, the movement of people and movement of and the repurposing of existing buildings. And yeah, I think that's the context for the Peabody discussion.
And I do think for the broader group to figure out how this fits into the broader group discussion of what's the priority? Is it fire, police and fire? Is it DPW? Is it municipal consolidation? Like that's for the broader group first before we can go down this.
Yeah, because we have at a certain point a similar thing, let's say, about fire station that need to be built. So what's that? And then again, order of magnitude of costs, and then you start to prioritize also not only costs but also timelines. When does what make sense? If we look at the debt servicing costs the town is bearing right now.
That's an excellent point. The phasing of the subgroups, I'll call that thing. And undoubtedly there's going to be a phasing because we can't afford to do everything all at once.
Right. And I feel like something's got to be sold before we do anything.
Yes.
Sorry, but I'll just speak to the elephant in the room. We got to sell something because we need some money.
Yeah, we can put a lot of lemonade stands out.
Yeah, I know, right?
Okay, we're a little past the bottom of the hour. It's been an excellent discussion. I really thank you, Eve, Brigitte, Russ,
Yes,
everybody.
thanks.
It's been great. And I will adjourn the meeting.